Zishan on Air Day. बहुत मजा आएगा and I'm looking forward to it. Assalamu alaikum and good evening, everyone. This is Zishan Isaac with Zishan on Air, and every Sunday, 6 p.m. and onward, we are here. I'm here with regards to the critical news, important news, facts, and analysis. Today on social media, you will also see some of the pictures of the protests. Almost, in fact, over 1,200 protests happened in America from East Coast to West Coast, and hundreds and thousands of people showed up. So those who are watching me live, you will see that, and you will also witness some of the pictures, some of the postcards, and what was the message, hands off campaign that basically occurred all over the US. So we'll discuss that. And also with regards to the markets, the US markets, what happened on Thursday, what happened on Friday. So let's begin with that. And if you have not subscribed my YouTube channel, please do that, because this is the information age. And with this information age, there's also a lot of misinformation and disinformation. I always say this is my country. This is our country. This is one of the greatest countries in the world. And at the end of the day, because this is America, next century is also ours. And why I say that the next century is ours, because this is the moment which will actually set the course, that are we in the right direction? Are we completely off course? Or do we have to go together by thinking this through with hundreds and thousands of people and millions of people, and all the policies that have been put in place, domestic policies as well as global policies as well as foreign policies. That doesn't mean that just because if we say that elections have consequences, that doesn't mean that everything that has happened in the past is bad or awful, or that also does not mean that everything is also good. So it has to be the right balance. Right now, those of you who are watching me outside of America, US is at a place where it's like a pendulum. The pendulum sometimes swings to the left and sometimes swings to the right. But the area or the place where the pendulum is very stable is called equilibrium. And that is the center. And US has always governed at the center. So that's where, when the markets, it's democracy, and businesses have people, and people are also investors, and they have spoken out loud and clear. So what happened? So let's start with this, with regards to what actually happened this past 2 days, the business days, I would say, Thursday and Friday. Dow drops 1,600 points as US stocks lead worldwide sell-off after Trump's tariffs caused a COVID-like shock. That was Associated Press. And I can tell you that billions, and I would say trillions of dollars were lost. Dow drops 1,400 points, S&P loses 4% as stock markets rout on Trump's tariffs worsens. Some other information from CNBC News. Then USA Today said President Trump tells Americans to hang tough, quote unquote, quote, hang tough, unquote. Golfs again as universal tariffs begin. And why the president is saying hang tough? Well, I'll tell you why. Because then on the stock market on Friday, the retaliatory tariffs came from China. And the market moved again in the wrong direction. And this time the drop was even severe, 2,200 points. The stock market rout deepens as Dow plunges more than 2,200 points and NASDAQ enters bear market. Now there's a bull market, there's a bear market. Bull market means everything is great. It's a bull rages. Bear market means it's going to eat it up. Bear, that's what bears do. They also eat cherries, but here in this case, from a economic and financial perspective, as you can see on the screen, it's really bad. And then until April 4th, the news from Reuters was the S&P 500 loses $5 trillion in 2 days in Trump tariff sell-off. But please hang on. Market Watch is telling us US stocks see biggest two-day wipeout in history as market loses 11 trillion. Let me repeat this. $11 trillion since inauguration day. So let's take a pause for a moment. When $11 trillion have been wiped off from the market, what does that mean? That means businesses will be shut down. That means 401k, those who are retiring in next few years or in next 10 years, it's going to impact them. Hopefully, when you get closer to your 401k retirement age, or if you are trying to withdraw closer to your retirement or you're already withdrawing, and I'm not a financial expert and I'm not giving any financial advice, but that's what they say. Those who help you with retirement planning, that you got to be conservative. So if you're still keeping that money, obviously, in some stocks that are risky stocks, I'm sorry, you have lost, I don't know how much you have lost. So this is a very scary situation with regards to even for those who do day trading, and many people do day trading as well. And then S&P loses 5 trillion, then 11 trillion since inauguration day, as Market Watch mentioned. Then the auto industry, all these different sectors were impacted. Car makers dipped, with Ford and General Motors down about 4.7% and 3.8% respectively. And then electric vehicles, Rivian fell 7.2%, Lucid dropped 1.9%, while Tesla was trading almost 5.3% lower. So people have made investments in these stocks. Then the retirement funds, the 401k funds, the hedge fund managers, it was a massacre in terms of the stock market, and for lack of a better term. Tariffs are expected to cost an additional $2,500 to $5,000 for the lowest cost American cars and up to $20,000 for some imported models. It's not rocket science. It's happening. Then the tech, hardware, and semiconductors, an 8.8% drop in Apple's shares was the biggest weight on the S&P 500. And then that's from Yahoo Finance. And then I'm sharing some more screenshots and some information directly on social media. So please connect with me. If you have not subscribed, please subscribe, because you'll get vital information with facts, with data, with figures. Now, Microsoft was off 1.5%, and that's again at the time of this news article, finance article. Artificial intelligence servers prior to, so it's basically adding millions in extra costs and appending AI development plans at big tech. And then with regards to energy sector, energy stocks, and energy is definitely something very close to us because we live in the energy capital of the world, Houston, oil and gas. Energy stocks and crude prices fell sharply despite imports of oil, gas, and refined products being exempted from Trump's new tariffs. So why do you think that happened? Because when there's not going to be a good sign from growth, the markets are looking at there'll be less consumption of oil. So now oil prices have fallen. With regards to some more information, the Five Below retailers, Apple dropped 13%, Dollar Tree tumbled 11%, Gap, these are all retailers, plunged 20%. Gap, that's the retailer store for clothing. Tech shares dropped in the overall risk-off mood, with Nvidia off 7% and Tesla down 5%. And pharmaceuticals, that's another sector. Pharmaceuticals were temporarily exempted from the tariffs, helping shares of major drug makers, Pfizer and Johnson & Johnson, to weather the market storm. J&J, Johnson shares rose 2.7%, while Amgen and Merck each rose less than 1% in afternoon trade, while Pfizer was down about 1%. Now, this is where we really need to recognize that this was not an ordinary event. That's why some news outlets said COVID-like shock, because we were all in a state of shock when everything basically was shut down and how it impacted the major shares of many car rentals at that time and airline industry, if we all recall and refresh our memories. So that is basically the information with regards to the stock market. Pentagon watchdog launches probe of Hexet signal messages. That news is not going anywhere, although the administration wants it to go away and no one should be talking about it. However, the chairman and ranking member of the Senate Armed Services Committee requested that Stebbins conduct a review after the Atlantic magazine reported last month that Hexet and other senior national security officials use the messaging app Signal to discuss military strikes against the Houthis in Yemen. So the latest on that, in a letter to Hexet, Acting Inspector General Stephen Stebbins wrote that the objective of the IG's, Inspector General's, quote, evaluation, unquote, is to determine whether Hexet and other Pentagon personnel, quote, complied with DoD, Department of Defense, policies and procedures for the use of a commercial messaging application for official business, end of quote. That what has always kept America great, because of the checks and balances. So if someone tells you why are they doing the investigation, or the Inspector General, well, this is the reason. Trump announces higher reciprocal tariffs rates for 185 countries. So as there is the saying, if America sneezes, the entire world catches the cold, right? You may have heard this phrase or this adage. With this entire 185 countries impacted by tariffs, it's going to impact globally in terms of the trade, the economy, and the global trade. So here is the list of the countries, and I'm not going to go with each and every country, but I'm sharing it on YouTube and on Facebook Live. Trump announces higher reciprocal tariff rates for 185 countries. China, with the White House estimated tariff rate against US is 67%. So US reciprocal tariff rate to China was 34%. And that's where you will see in terms of different countries. Bangladesh, 74%. So the Trump administration added 37% because a lot of clothing, even some brand names, they have their plants in Bangladesh. With regards to other countries like Australia, they imposed 10% on US goods. So the retaliatory tariff on Australia was also 10%. Pakistan, for example, imposes 58% tariff on US goods. So the retaliatory tariff was not 58%, but increased to 29%. Turkey, 10%. It kept at 10%, stayed like that. If we go on with this list, it's a big list. So I'm just quickly looking at these numbers. For example, if we look at on this slide, there are some small islands. Solomon Island, 10%. So reciprocal is also 10%. British Virgin Island, 10%. It's the same 10%. Zimbabwe, 35%. So retaliatory tariff from US is 18%. Monaco, 10%, same state as 10% from US. And then Yemen, for example, 10%, it's in the news, 10%. But I don't know how much Yemen buys from US, because these are very poor countries as well. So we have to also quantify this, right? That what Yemenis are buying, right? Then the list goes on with regards to some other countries. I just want to make sure we cover some of the other countries. For example, Iran at 10%, so retaliate 10%. But remember, Iran is already under a lot of restrictions and embargoes and trade restrictions. Kenya, 10%, remained at 10%. Panama, 10%, it's the same 10%. Venezuela, they sell a lot of oil as well, 29% to US, so retaliatory was 15%. Some other countries we see in the list. For example, Cayman Islands remains the same, but again, it's Cayman Islands. And with some other countries like Iraq, 78%, retaliates 39%. Again, the question should be asked, how much Iraq is buying from US? Jamaica, 10%. And then again, reciprocal is also 10%. With regards to some other countries like UAE, 10% remain the same, 10%. Egypt, 10% remain the same at 10%. Remember, Egypt is also a country where I don't know how many products they buy from US. but that's where they have kept 10%, and it's the same reciprocal 10%. Morocco, same 10%. It remained the same 10%. In some other countries, like for example, Kuwait, sell a lot of oil, so it remained the same 10%, and US is also 10%. With regards to some other countries like Oman, remained the same. Qatar remained the same 10% for both. And then we also see some other countries in this list with regards to some other smaller countries. So 185 countries basically saw this reciprocal tariff increase, but not, I would say, percentage-wise to percentage-wise. Otherwise, would be even higher. In some other news with regards to Elon Musk and how he's funding campaigns, all eyes were on the Supreme Court's election in the state of Wisconsin. So the state of Wisconsin's liberal judge wins Supreme Court election. That was definitely something where no one was expecting that, and the Americans and the American public stood with the liberal judge, and she has obviously won. And despite Elon Musk spending over $25 million. So this is a sign of what's next and what will come in the next few months and years, and especially toward the, I would say, in 2026 midterm elections. Now we'll discuss with regards to the protests with hundreds and thousands of people. They have protested, and thousands packed downtown Chicago for hands-off protest against Trump administration in Dealey Plaza. And those of you who can watch me live, you can see a sea of people, or the ocean of people, from this drone camera. And then there are some very, I would say, interesting and great postcards that people basically were demonstrating their right to free speech, as well as the right to protest. Stop the coup, for example, in this banner that you can see. In some others, there were some other protests where people said, Trumpster in a dumpster. These are all placards, and I'm sure the president doesn't like this kind of language. You can see people even came out from the retirement homes in Chicago, hundreds of thousands of people. Here, an activist was American flag upside down during quote hands off unquote demonstration in Palm Beach Gardens in Florida. And then love migrants, that's one of the quotes from the Bible, welcome the stranger. So very good turnout, thousands packed downtown Chicago, and many couldn't even reach downtown Chicago at Dealey Plaza. So they just stood outside of their homes and streets. So this is something where the mainstream media, I don't know how much they will cover it, because they may cover some, they may not cover some, because we are definitely living in an age where people are scared, and they are also demonstrating their right to protest, to stop destroying America. In this code, in this other view, you see so many people protesting. And then US citizens rally at nationwide hands-off protest against Trump administration's agenda. So something is definitely happening. And then many of my listening audiences, sometimes they ask, oh, we are not seeing this because you're not watching the news properly, I would say. Or I don't know where do you get news from? I would also ask you that, and I will also challenge you that. So this is a very tumultuous, unstable time for all of us, and we are all in this together. However, are we? And I will play President Obama's this viral clip in terms of what he said. And we have got to pay attention to what President Obama is also saying. So some more, I would say, play cards here. Just stop This elderly American, white bearded, white guy, I would say, and in his hat, and he is in Mohawk Valley, hands-off rally at Oneida Square in New York, in Antigua, New York. So bad, even introverts are here. This lady, she is definitely wearing warm clothes and hood because this is what's happening. Hands off our democracy, hands off our social security, and some others, hands off our science, hands off Medicare, stop destroying America, like I showed to all of you on social media. This slide, protesters across the US rally against Trump and Musk, stop destroying America, fight back. Then these are all the postcards and banners. And this was reported from Time magazine. Then some other activists protest President Donald Trump a few miles away at Trump National Golf Club during a hands-off demonstration because he is playing the elderly golf championship today. I don't know. I haven't watched the latest news if he won or he didn't win, but he definitely went to the national, I would say, competition. So that was the statement from White House. So congratulations to the president. And stop the coup, save our democracy. Here is some other, I would say, colorful images that you would see. Some people came with placards, "Let Gaza live," and then I can't read this, "Divisive" and "Resist" and "Apartheid" and all these. Definitely not something that many people will look at and be happy, especially from the administration. Angry protesters from New York to Alaska sailed Trump and Musk in, quote, "hands off," unquote, rallies. So that was Associated Press. Now, without any further ado, I would like to play this clip from Obama. And I want you to definitely pay attention to what President Obama basically is saying, because we certainly want to listen to our former president, and let's listen to what he said. And those of you, if you cannot, I would say, get the entire commentary, I will make sure that I also play this directly from our traditional media as well. But for now, I will just play it here on social media.
If I had done any of this, let me just, I just want to be clear about this. Imagine that imagine if I had pulled Fox News' credentials from the White House press corps. You're laughing, but no, this is what's happening. Imagine if I'd said to law firms that were representing parties that were upset with policies my administration had initiated, that you will not be allowed into government buildings. We will punish you economically for dissenting from the Affordable Care Act or the Iran deal. We will ferret out students who protest against my policies. It's unimaginable that the same parties that are silent now would have tolerated behavior like that from me or a whole bunch of my predecessors. So, and I say this not on a partisan basis. This has to do with something more precious, which is, who are we as a country and what values do we stand for?
So that was President Obama. Who are we as a country and what values do we stand for? So with that, I will sign off. I'm a patriot. I love America. And whoever is watching me live, whoever is listening to me, think about it. What kind of country are we going to leave for our children, for our grandchildren, and for our great great grandchildren? That is my question. We won't be here for sure. Anyone who's listening to me and watching me live, none of us will be here to watch our great great grandchildren. And this is what is at stake. We cannot be as selfish that, okay, we're just going to live in the moment and let's not forget about our future generation. And those of us who would be blessed to see our children's happiness and their beautiful journeys in their personal and professional lives, we want to make sure they are also successful and they should have all those opportunities that all of us got for decades, for centuries. Because this is not about one single person. This is about us, we the people. And what President Obama is asking, and that's why he's been so great, because he connects with the ordinary people, with everyday, average Americans like myself, you and I, and those of you who are watching me live, and those of you who are listening to me, because it has to be the bipartisan effort. Forget about being a Democrat for now. Forget about being a Republican for now. Forget about even being an independent. Think about it as a human. And then perhaps maybe as an American. And the reason I'm saying perhaps as an American, because the patriotism tag is associated now with people that if anyone questions something, as if your patriotism is questionable. And is this the kind of America we want to leave for our children? Is this the kind of America that once we say goodbye to our loved ones, because all of us will definitely die? And I don't want to discourage or would like to scare anyone, but that is a reality. That's why it's incumbent upon each one of us. All of you have jobs, businesses. Maybe some of you who are watching me and listening to me, they may not have a job. So we have to reach out to those who may be struggling, who may be thinking that, okay, if our neighbors are not going to look out for us, who will? Maybe there's somebody out there struggling with depression or anxiety and thinking that, okay, well, all these cuts that are happening from the federal level, am I going to get some of those benefits by calling, as an example, the suicide hotline? I'm just giving you these examples. These are real life examples. So what is our responsibility at this time? Even though some people are saying doom and gloom, some are optimistic, some are eternal optimistic like me, some are cautiously optimistic like me as well. But we have to hold our public officials at the local level, state level, and at the federal level accountable. And I think this weekend, many Americans at least spoke up. But is it going to be enough? So there are two sides of this. Some are saying, yes, it's conventional wisdom or it's great. No, I don't think so. Because people have already spoken with their votes. Now they will say, okay, well, the president has the right to implement his policy, but the problem is the policy, is this what you voted for? That's number one. And number two, that if we go down with that approach that, oh, elections have consequences, and then whoever comes into the administration, what if they were Democrats right now? That's why President Obama asked this question. Although he said that let's not think of it as a bipartisan, but think of it as who are we as a country and what values do we stand for? So that is the question at stake. That is the question that we need to be asking ourselves, not as just putting ourselves and dividing ourselves into different groups and demographics or national origin or sexual orientation, what have you. Think of it as humans. And that is the fundamental question. That what kind of country do we want to be? And then also recognizing that these are drastic changes. Yes, at some point you may need those changes. That's the argument being made, but can we not organize it properly? Don't you all remember what President Trump has said about the withdrawal from Afghanistan, the haphazard withdrawal? I agree with him on that, but sometimes these things happen. Maybe the administration at that time, Biden administration, they tried their best and they couldn't handle that kind of a draw. So what is happening now as we speak? This is the massacre in terms of the livelihoods and the businesses and the stock markets wiped out $11 trillion as Market Watch reported, and I just quoted them. So I report. They like to say, don't shoot the messenger. I report, you decide. So that is the question. Can it be handled better? Maybe they need to scale back, maybe do it properly, because the stock market has spoken. We are not living in a dictator country or dictatorship, but are we? These are the questions. Are Republicans okay with that? Because it's your party who is in power. And those of you who basically are swing voters or independent voters, or those of you who were Democrats forever and somehow you thought that, oh, I'm voting because of the Gaza war or the Palestine war. What about you? I'm asking the question with you. You're all now quiet because obviously you're scared. You're going to speak up. If you are not a US citizen, you're a non-US citizen, you'll be picked up by authorities. It can very well happen. So is this the kind of country we want? And I'm asking this question to Americans, to all of us. We are all Americans. Or is this going to be a country where we will not have any kind of dissent, any kind of questioning, no creativity? No one can ask a question because they will have fears of their businesses being attacked or losing businesses or not getting business from people who may differ with your point of view, with your school of thought, or with your political point of view? Or are we going to live in a country where everyone will be like a penguin, right? Penguins are the great examples, because penguins, they all look the same. Because even if you look at other animals, they may have different stripes or, different shapes, but penguins, they all look the same. Then there's no creativity. So this is, what President Obama basically is talking about. That's what I understood and I interpreted. And we've got to get out of this shell that we're living and have built around us. I know these are tough times, but there's always light at the end of the tunnel, and you only need a candle to light up the entire room. So that's all I'm going to say. You all are smart. You all are intelligent people. Some of you are scared. Maybe that's the right thing to do as well, but don't be scared. Ask around. There are people who may think like you as well, and there may be people who may not think like you, but we've got to reach out and connect and help others to understand your point of view. And if they don't understand, that's fine, but ask the right questions, and especially with the public officials. So with that, I'm going to sign off, and I hope you will subscribe and spread this message of love, peace, and hope, because I report, you decide. This is Zishan Issaaq signing off from the social media. I'll continue this with the traditional media. Thank you.